Hello everybody, Resonance here, and today I'm going to show you guys the Feudal Wars Kickstarter page, as well as some brand new gameplay that features our new graphics. In case you haven't seen my other videos on Feudal Wars, this game is an upcoming free-to-play RTS game that features similar gameplay to Age of Empires 2, but on a completely modern engine. This means the Feudal Wars will feature significantly smoother multiplayer, improved graphics, a fully moddable engine, the ability to play in the browser or an offline client, balanced and improved gameplay with both familiar and new units, and all of the base game will be completely free to play. Regardless of our monetization model down the line, which is still up for debate, I promise you that Feudal Wars will never be pay to win. Also note that with the power of HTML5 and WebGL, that Feudal Wars is not limited at all by being playable in the browser. The Kickstarter for it begins today, so if you're a fan of AoE 2 or other classic RTS games, then I highly encourage you to check it out. Keep in mind that on Kickstarter, funding is all or nothing, so if the project does not reach its goal, then you get your money back. Now, this is actually my first sponsored video, but as always, you can rest easy knowing that I only promote things that I honestly enjoy. And when it comes to Feudal Wars, this is a game I'm especially excited about because I'm actually designing the gameplay, and I will be collecting your feedback. Right now, the game is very early in development, and I'm always open to your thoughts on both the gameplay and the graphics, so let me know if you have any suggestions. Just remember that the minigame that you see here is just a demo, and the full game will be a classic RTS game in a similar style to Age of Empires 2. And with your support on Kickstarter, we can finally get the ball rolling and build the next great RTS game together. So what does our Kickstarter have to offer? Well, if you support our Kickstarter, then you're helping us turn Feudal Wars from an idea into a reality. As a reward for anyone who backs the project, we'll be offering things such as early access to the full game, immediate access to our brand new minigame that shows the new graphics, a digital art book, immediate access to our map editor, the ability to design a custom taunt, and last but not least, you even get access to our private development discussion where we will be sharing upcoming features, units, and soliciting your feedback on the game. And assuming we get funded on Kickstarter, then you can expect the game to be released sometime in December 2016, but we will be testing multiplayer with you guys before that through a CBA-style minigame sometime in May. Now, I just mentioned immediate access to a brand new minigame that shows the new graphics, so let's check that out. The minigame is called Invasion, and while I show you guys some gameplay of it, I'll also be explaining the various mechanics. Note, by the way, that I'll be playing in Canvas mode, which has more fancy animations that you can see in the trees, and eventually those will be coming to WebGL too. But I encourage you to try WebGL mode as well to see which mode runs better on your specific computer. So in Invasion, the player starts with a small base on the bottom side of the map. In the center of your base lies a castle, and the goal of this game is to protect that castle from 20 waves of approaching enemies. At the start of the game, it explains the rules in this text box, and then you can select the difficulty from a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being the hardest and 1 being the easiest. Since I'm not a weenie, of course I'm going with difficulty 10, but I really recommend starting with 4 if you're new. Also, keep in mind that I've been testing this non-stop for a while now, so difficulty 4 is definitely the recommended starting point. Anyway, Invasion is our take on a tower defense game, and we figured that this was the perfect type of demo to showcase the new graphics and just how powerful our game engine can be. I actually had the pleasure of designing Invasion myself, and it was a particularly fun challenge for me. Of course, Chris did the coding, and our art team designed the unit graphics, textures, buildings, and the map. Now, compared to our previous demos, Invasion features limitless replay value and a greater emphasis on strategy. With 10 different difficulties, randomly generated waves of units, 7 unique enemy types, and 4 different player units, the possibilities are endless. So every 40 seconds, a wave of enemies will spawn at the top of the map, and they'll follow the path toward your castle. In addition, every 5 waves, a boss cavalry will spawn, and 3 of those will spawn in the final wave on wave 20. Enemies and bosses will, however, attempt to attack any of your units and towers if they're in the way. After an enemy has slain one of your units, he will continue marching to the next segment on the path. This means that you have to be very careful with positioning your units, and carefully controlling them is essential to victory. Speaking of units, in Invasion you can train 3 different types of troops and even build new towers. I carefully designed each of these so that there are multiple ways to win and that each unit fulfills a specific role. The first unit that you have access to is the Archer, and it is cheap, medium ranged, and can be positioned in the middle of your army. Since archers cost so little, you can mass up a large army of them, and losing individual archers doesn't matter as much. Remember that enemy units will target one of your units and then move on. So if you lose an archer, then you lose a lot less total attack damage from your army than if you were making other units. The downside though is that archers are very fragile, and they need to be microed carefully. The second unit is the Crossbowman, and this unit has a very high attack stat, high HP, but short range. This means that the Crossbowman is best positioned at the front of your army, where it can soak up damage and is close enough to attack. It's important to note that the boss will kill all of your units in one hit, except the Crossbowman and your towers, making the Crossbowman an effective counter to bosses. Since enemies will try to kill one of your units and then move on, the Crossbowman's high HP pool will keep enemies occupied for longer, while your other units finish them off. The third unit is the Longbowman, which will be England's unique unit in the full Feudal Wars game. The Longbowman is very expensive, but it boasts a high attack stat and an extremely long range. Longbowmen might have more HP than an archer, but a Longbowman costs more than 2 archers combined, so the Longbowman is actually quite fragile. If you decide to incorporate this unit into your army, then protecting it is the key to success, and it should be positioned at the back of your army. The final unit we have is the Tower, and it is by far the most expensive unit, but also boasts a long-range, powerful attack and a whopping 1,000 health. Even though the Tower has extremely long range, it's actually best used at the front of your army to distract the enemy while the rest of your army cleans them up. Since Longbowmen and Towers have great range, you can even carefully position them near the corners to deal free damage to enemies that are following the path. One of the most important strategies you can use in the higher difficulties is paying close attention to which of your units the enemy is targeting, and then microing your targeted units away from the enemy to make them waste time. This technique takes a lot of practice, and it's only generally needed on the later levels. Just make sure that if you are microing your troops, that you're only moving the ones that are being targeted. That way your other troops will continue attacking while you distract the enemies. Some other basic strategy tips that might help you would be making sure that you're spending all of your money unless you're saving up for a more expensive purchase. In addition, I definitely recommend focus firing down the bosses first, because otherwise they can quickly kill your army or even run past it to make short work of your castle. There are many viable ways to clear all 10 difficulties, and I really encourage you guys to experiment with different combinations of units and how you position and use them. I really hope that everyone has been enjoying my minigame and that it is worth all those late nights of work. As always, I tremendously value your guys' feedback, so please let me know what you think and if you'd like to see more videos on Feudal Wars. If there's any demand for it, I'd be happy to do videos on development, where I answer your guys' questions and discuss long-term plans for development and game design. I am striving to be the most community-focused designer I can be, and together with your support, we can guarantee that Feudal Wars will be an excellent game. Alright, so while the rest of the minigame is playing out, I figured I would give you guys a little bit of an invasion development post-mortem where I talk a little bit about the design obstacles here and, why I'm working with Feudal Wars at all, because I understand that some of you might be a little bit skeptical about the potential for Feudal Wars and wondering why I'm doing it. One of the, common criticisms that I'm sure people are imagining in their mind is, oh, Resonance is only in it for the money. Like, this was a sponsored video, so... But the thing is that I'm not only in it for the money, otherwise I would have been... Everything before this would have been a sponsored video. It's just that I've been working with them for free prior to this because I actually honestly have faith in the project. I was skeptical at first too, the things like it being in the browser and free to play I thought were honest limitations that would hold it back and with a small team, except the more that I work with the Feudal Wars team and the more that I'm learning about the game, I'm coming to understand that these aren't actually limitations and things like the browser doesn't hold it back at all, and that actually together we can build the next great RTS game. I do firmly believe that. I spend a lot of my time, joking and complaining about how Age of Empires 2 HD Edition is so poorly optimized, and I'm always wondering, what would it be like if we could play a game as fun and timeless as Age of Empires 2 without having to deal with that engine that's been holding it back, and now we actually have that opportunity, and that gets me really excited. Obviously, this is a big risk for me, but it's one that I'm comfortable taking, and I hope that you're willing to follow me along this ride and see where Feudal Wars goes. So let's talk a little bit about invasion design here. Now, when I was originally approached to design the minigame, I was absolutely overjoyed, as I love creating fun experiences for people. That's why I have the YouTube channel, so I can help make games more approachable for people, and that's why I made the Resonance Bot Custom AI. So I see this as an extension of my design philosophy and something that I had a blast doing, but I knew it wasn't going to be easy. This is one of the bigger challenges I've ever had to overcome, because while the Feudal Wars engine right now is very solid, it's missing a lot of core features, and that's the whole point of the Kickstarter, is that we'll be using the money to actually build these features and finish the game, turn it from an idea into reality. Like, for example, right now we're still working on adding things like armor and attack bonuses, so I wanted to design a minigame here with unlimited replayability, a wide variety of different strategies and viable units, and that was really tricky to do knowing that I couldn't put in things like armor and attack bonuses. Overall, though, I would say I'm extremely satisfied with how it turned out, and I'm surprised actually of how many different ways there are to win. It's pretty cool. When it comes to designing units, one of the things in the old tower defense game was that, you know, in general, when you're designing units for this type of thing, you want to make sure that the units that are more expensive are actually more cost efficient in some way than the previous units, or they just offer a very different distribution of stats. Because the thing is here is that it used to be that the crossbowman was less efficient than the archer in the other one, and this means that, you know, you could either get a crossbowman, which has less attack than 2 archers, and then, you know, you could have had 2 bodies there, so you have effectively half the HP as well. No reason to buy that. So differentiating between the units was really tricky, and yeah, I think it turned out to be quite solid. I would say that some, you know, initial obstacles that had me stumped were definitely getting the bosses to feel right. Originally, I absolutely drastically undershot the boss HP, so gosh. I think the first draft of the boss is something like 500 to 700 HP, and right now it's at 2,500-ish, so yeah, I really undershot that one. I was very much underestimating exactly how fast you could deal damage to a unit. I think that right now the boss does die pretty quickly, but I think that's important considering that in Wave 23 of them spawn, and I've been experimenting with stronger versions of the boss. I've been testing this nonstop. I think it's pretty good as is. Well, as always, guys, thank you so much for the support and for watching. As always, I very much appreciate it. If you're interested, I have a live streaming schedule on my Twitch page, so feel free to head there and scroll underneath the video player if you want to join in my live streams. And I look forward to bringing you guys more awesome content for Age of Empires 2, Feudal Wars, and other games. So I'll see you all next time.